So first and foremost, for taking the time out and joining us from Strasbourg, Mr. Nemeth, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And concerning my introduction, I would like to correct one element. I'm not anymore the chairman of the Select Committee for Political Affairs of the Council of Europe. I have been doing it for 3 years, but now my mandate is over. But the new element that I have been yesterday elected as the chairman of the Conservative and Patriotic Parliamentary Group of the Council of Europe. So this is to make my introduction full. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for correcting it. And but it's a good start to the conversation, because then the guest gets actively involved and the host takes a backstage. So welcome to the SenseMaker. A lot is happening in the world today, and you have been writing about it. You've given various interviews on this. You've also spoken at length in various fora about the world and what is the role that Europe has to play. An interesting postulation, an interesting theoretical framework, like us academicians, we like to call it, is the concept of Central Europe. Before we get into everything else, tell us a little bit about how is this Central Europe, which is different from, say, the oft-discussed Western Europe, and how does this fit in within the larger framework of how the Hungarians look at European democracy?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am very glad to be invited by the Advanced Study Institute of Asia. And I had the privilege to meeting you and visiting India not long ago. Concerning your question what relates Central Europe, I would like to draw your attention that Europe has historical regions. And basically, we can talk about Western Europe, we can talk about Eastern Europe, and we can talk about Central Europe. Western Europe, as you said, is a more clear notion with the British, the French. We can obviously speak about the Germans in this context now. As far as Eastern Europe, it is historically the Russia ruled and dominated part of Europe. And as you know, some 35 years ago, the map of Europe has started to change fundamentally, and former Soviet satellite states have become independent democracies. And that is the major systemic change, the end of the Cold War. And these satellite states have regained their independence, and they have been able to join Western political structures slowly. The process is still going on. But I'm sure you are aware that Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic joined first NATO in 1999. And then we have just celebrated the 25th anniversary of this development. And then a couple of years later, in 2004, 10 countries, 8 from the region and 2 other countries, joined the European Union. But obviously, this still keeps open the question, what is Central Europe? And I would say to you that Central Europe is basically the Russian speaking and German speaking European sides surrounded Europe. So the Europe which is surrounded from the west by German speakers and from the right by Russian speakers. And this is a huge region from the Baltic Sea down to the Mediterranean, to the Adriatic Sea. And three historical kingdoms have dominated this region. That was the Polish, the Czech, and the Hungarian, and later on the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, as we all know. Cultural, historical patterns came back. But these countries, as I said, have by now, most of them joined Western structures, NATO, European Union, and others. But we are still close to Russia. And this Russian closeness is very important in defining our possibilities in Central Europe. The Central European countries have been quite sensitive by the latest Putin type Russia strategy, which doesn't hide the intention to recreate in some form the Soviet Union. And this imperial instinct of Russia has influenced the Central European countries, and there have been different type of reactions to this, say, danger. Because let us be clear that this is a danger for the Central European countries. The reaction was twofold. Some countries said that now it is high time that we isolate as much Russia as possible. And this reaction is very, very popular, especially in the northern side of Central Europe, the Baltic countries, Poland. But there is another reaction, and probably Hungary is the most symbolic in this regard, that we think that the most important thing is not isolating Russia, but probably it is more important to become strong as we can become. And now that is the strategy that we are trying to pursue. And if we need to collaborate in certain fields with Russia or Russia-dependent countries, even Belarus can be mentioned in this context, or we can also bring under this title Iran, or even China is mentioned many times in this context. If we get stronger via cooperation with these countries, we need to exploit the possibility of becoming strong through cooperation in certain fields, economic fields, with these important international players, respecting, obviously, at the same time, all international norms and decisions by our Western alliances, NATO, European Union, decisions as well. And I wouldn't say that we have got a unanimous attitude in Central Europe. We are these days a bit divided inside Central Europe. There is not a united approach, but we are trying to harmonize our positions as much as we can. So, for example, our regional structure is, for example, the Visegrad 4 cooperation, the V4, which has Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary in it. And this is an organization which is trying to mediate the different positions. But fundamentally, this kind of divide exists in Central Europe. We cannot hide it.
Thank you. That was a very interesting answer. It brought a lot of context. And I'm going to continue with this theme because one of the things that a lot of people who are readers and audiences of Asia would like to understand this important area called Central Europe and how it can be used from a security and strategic point of view. What I'm going to take you to 1st of August 2008. The first war fought in Europe in 21st century was the invasion of Georgia by the Russian forces under the president, the short time that Mr. Putin was not the president of Russia and Dmitry Medvedev was. It was a 16-day incursion attack into a sovereign country. Fidesz, the political party that you represent, was not in power. Fidesz, under the leadership of Mr. Orban, came back to power in 2010. So, safe to say that you guys were in the opposition at that point of time. Hungary has had a very long history of anti-Soviet sentiment. The uprising that took part in 1956 and beyond is absolutely credible in that. The images from that era with the hole in the flag stand testimony to perhaps the Hungarian spirit and the fact that any incursion into the land of Hungary will not be tolerated. It's been 16 years now, and the conversation that came up in 2022, 2 years ago, when the Russians went to Ukraine, there was not one coherent stream of thought. There were knee-jerk reactions. There was a very different way that different parts of the world wanted to play it out. But you are in the eye of the storm, if I may, because you have a huge landmass next to you with nuclear warheads and what appears to be a very sophisticated military system, but in the last 2 years, perhaps not so much. How do you, as a resident of Central Europe, look at security?
It is a very important question to us, and probably the most important zero starting point answer is that through our membership in NATO, which has, as I mentioned, happened in 1999, and in the last 25 years, we have experienced the highest level of security in our history, in the whole of our history. So we are very committed pro-NATO member. The Hungarian population had the opportunity to express its view, and over 80% the Hungarian population voted in favor and support of the Hungarian NATO membership. And that has not changed. NATO has got a very high popularity still. We may have a lot of debates with the European Union, but there is a quite united position, a pro-NATO position in our country. However, we believe that this present war between Russia and Ukraine doesn't have a military solution. And the Hungarian diplomacy is quite outspoken about this question, respecting the alliance, respecting our international partners' position. We are far too close to this region. And I would like to mention to you that the Hungarian position and the Indian approach to the Ukrainian-Russian war is very, very similar. And we highly appreciate that Mr. Modi has undertaken a peace mission and went to Kiev, went to Moscow, and offered through his National Security Advisor Ajit Doval also a mediating role. Hungary is approaching this war exactly in the same way. And Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister, after taking over the presidency of the Council of the European Union, 1st of July, in the very early days of July, paid a visit to Kiev, to Moscow, and also went to China, went to the United States, and met also the former President Donald Trump, who is now running to become again the President of the United States, and had a very substantial discussion with him. So the peace mission of Viktor Orban was a very visible step. There have been a lot of criticism generated by this trip. I wouldn't like to hide it, but what I would like to underline that this is vitally important. And just recently, the Hungarian foreign minister addressed the United Nations General Assembly, and there he underlined the importance of peace efforts, and a new formation was created, Friends of Peace. The Hungarian participation in this is important, and we should note that this is a Chinese-Brazilian initiative, a very good sign. And we believe that both the Indian peace mission and the Chinese-Brazilian initiative target to the same where the Hungarian position is targeting, that there is no military solution. And we need to unite on this subject. We are afraid that at this stage, we are not there yet. Probably you also noted that President Zelensky said that Hungary is too small to play a decisive role in this question. It was not told to the Indian Prime Minister, because India is not as small as Hungary, but I think it was an important result that after the visit of Mr. Modi to Kiev, the openness of the Ukrainian side towards negotiations with the Russians has increased. That was not the case in Moscow, as we read it. The Moscow attitude was more closed, and they announced that receiving your national security advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, there was a gesture on behalf of Putin. It was just a gesture on their side. I think we have to do further efforts, and I hope that India is not giving up its effort to work towards influencing the warring sides, because us who are not warring sides, you are not, and China and Brazil, all the players can be very decisive in terminating this bloody, extremely bloody war, which is happening in the midst of Europe at the beginning of the 21st century, and hundreds of thousands of people die. This is unbelievable, and I think this is one of the most serious security challenges in front of us, and that's why our efforts towards peace need to be continued. And we would like to congratulate, I would like to congratulate your country, to India, doing this in a very committed way.
Thank you. Again, it was an illustrative answer. I think the Indian strategy, the Hungarian strategy, or the Chinese and the Brazilian strategy is to try and keep the war short, but 2 years have passed, and 2 years is a very long time. Continuous war, people are dying, the future is being lost, children are being compromised. So I absolutely agree wholeheartedly with your sentiment. I think no country can be big or small. It's the effort that counts. And this brings me to, I think, in a 50-minute conversation with a senior political figure like you, and I am an academician, I think I'm allowed two controversial questions to keep it spiced up. So I'm going to ask you question number one. When I look at the press, and I follow the press, the regular press, when I see Mr. Orban going to a peace mission, having just taken over the presidency in the European Union, I don't see the kind of press that Mr. Blinken receives when he goes and when he talks about peace. It's very interesting, and this is something I wanted to understand for some time. How can it be that the Hungarian side, which is openly against this aggression from Russia into Ukraine, how can that be branded as pro-Putin? And that is one of the, it's an inspired mystery for me personally. Because if I know anything about the Hungarian character, if I know anything about the Hungarian political leadership, if I'm not wrong, Fidesz, your political party, is born out of a negative sentiment towards the USSR. So explain it to me, how is it that one large country, the United States of America, which tried for a very long time to get Russia into the mainstream of financial systems and everything else that it entails, gets no criticism for overt aggression of the country that they brought into the international fora and fold. But one country that has always opposed Russia somehow becomes pro-Russia and pro-Putin. So it's a mystery. Try and help demystify this for me, Mr. Nemeth.
Well, it is. I'm very grateful that you seem to understand very well the Hungarian position, and I would like to thank you for articulating it. Yes, Hungary has been invaded by the Russians in the past 200 years on multiple occasions, basically every 50 years. Our 19th century independence and democracy movement was crushed by them in 1849. And the last one was, as you said, in 1956. Our parents were fighting against the Russian tanks on the streets of Budapest. And the heroes, the Budapest lads, were famous, and they were the Man of the Year in the Time magazine, the freedom fighter, the Hungarian freedom fighter. And then we achieved finally our independence and democracy by 1990. And gradually we could enter NATO, the European Union, and now we enjoy, in the last 35 years, our freedom and democracy. But we do have this kind of dilemma that you have depicted. And I cannot tell you the real answer, because this is fake news that Hungary would be pro-Putin and pro-Russian. But when you are in an atmosphere about war and peace, and there is a kind of warmongering atmosphere in the West, even if you say that we need to find a diplomatic solution, can be interpreted as pro-Putin, which is, I think, fundamentally wrong, because we have nothing to do with pro-Putinism by our genes and by our history. But we still believe that we need to terminate this conflict and start the diplomatic process, because the military aspect will not bring the solution in our conviction. And that's why we do identify with many important international players' approach, including India, on this subject. And we are as pro-Putin as India is pro-Putin. And I think you find it ridiculous to have this judgment against you. So I cannot give you a perfect answer. You need to go into the psyche of those who speak, and probably you need to have American interview next time to get a full answer to your question.
No, absolutely. It's always a very paradoxical situation that one finds oneself in, because that everything that is happening in the world. One specific thing that keeps on coming up, and you've made this very clear, your position on it, that armament and military solution is not the answer to the Russian and Ukraine war. So perhaps we have to look at alternatives. But you have partners in the NATO, countries that are far away from the conflict, and they have found it easy to have a military solution. If I may have you comment on what exactly is the Hungarian proposal to end the war early?
We believe that we cannot let the war being continued. And we don't want to go too much into the details of the solution, because we believe that it is fundamentally the decision of the warring parts. Especially, we need to take into attention the position of the victim, because here we have an aggressor. The aggressor is Russia. There is no debate at all on this subject, that they bear the responsibility of being the aggressor, what we condemned and we keep condemning. And thus there is a victim, and which is the Ukraine. And obviously, without the Ukraine, we cannot enter into negotiation, and we cannot make any kind of decisions instead of them. We need to have them obviously on board, as we need to have the Russians also on board. And here the role of United States is fundamental. That's why we pay attention to the developments in the United States, how the election process is going on, and what kind of outcome the election will have on this fundamental conflict. And on the longer run, we find it very important how the world order is going to be influenced after the war. Because now we believe that the so-called United Nations world order is in a fundamental crisis. We are committed to the principles of the UN Charter: security, peace, the sovereign equality of nations, the global common good, respect of human rights. All these principles are now fundamentally challenged by the Russian aggression against the Ukraine. And it has never happened that a Security Council member has done this. And now we believe that our world order, the so-called United Nations world order, is in a very serious crisis. Because either after the war, we will continue where we were. And how can it happen that we pretend that nothing has happened with violating these fundamental principles of the UN? How can we act that nothing changed? On the other hand, to exclude Russia from the Security Council members is not possible through legal means, not violating the rules of the United Nations as well. So in both options, we believe that the global UN world order is in front of a very serious challenge. Under these circumstances, I think the importance of dialogue between non-warring global important partners is vital. I would draw your attention to the importance of G7, G20. You played a very crucial role as chairing G20. I would also underline the importance of G7. G7 has assumed a very important role recently, inviting democratic players from BRICS circles, including India, to G7 meetings. I think there is a dialogue between the US and China. Then they may have debates and disagreements, but the dialogue was continuous in the past period as well. And there are bilateral dialogues, obviously, between the US and the members of BRICS countries. You have the Quad, which is a very important forum of dialogue between India, the United States, Japan, and Australia. I think this is a vitally important international organization. We have BRICS. Even the European Union is integrated into the G7, as you know, as a full member of G7. Through the European Union, we are represented as well, Hungarians there. We are now chairing the Council of the European Union. But probably the European Union is a bit sidelined in this whole important global networks and discussions. But one thing is sure, that we need to have a dialogue to discuss what kind of world order we are going to have after the end of this very bloody present conflict happening between the Ukraine and Russia.
Thank you. There is absolutely no opposition on this, and I don't think there can be. Which brings me to matter away from the war front and about economic cooperation. Central Europe is growing faster now than Western Europe and other parts of Europe. It's also an economic block of the V4 and other configurations that keep on happening. But there is no protracted approach of Central Europe to other fast growing economic areas such as South Asia, Asia, parts of Africa. So, how do we accelerate the rate of cooperation between Central Europe and other blocks that have the potential and the ability to grow faster? What can be done in terms of economic cooperation, educational cooperation, technological cooperation, and so on and so forth?
Thank you very much for raising this question. And we recognize the fast development of Asia, and we pay special attention also to South Asia as well. The economic development in Asia is fundamentally and substantially higher than that of the West in general, including the European Union. And you are right that inside the European Union, the Central European economic growth is a bit higher. And now we have decided that we would like to increase this difference. And the Hungarian Prime Minister has just yesterday announced that we want to move from next year into a situation when we grow somewhere between 3 to 6%. He announced a very ambitious plan, and we have just started to consider the new budget, and next year budget will concentrate on these kind of targets, how we can achieve and to foster, especially through credit lines to companies, including medium-sized and smaller-sized companies as well. The social dimension cannot be disregarded of this question. I would draw your attention that in May, we had the Chinese president in Budapest. He paid a visit to Europe, and he also came to us. And President Xi was offering a very rich proposal for our economic cooperation. But obviously, this is not an exclusive cooperation. I'm just telling you that China has awakened concerning the importance of Central Europe. And we would also welcome if India would play such a decisive and important role in fostering economic relations with our region, exploiting the possibility of this region, which is a very well identifiable region of Europe. So we are open to much closer cooperation with South Asia, and we would like to talk about these questions on academic level as well. So I would draw your attention that recently Prime Minister Viktor Orbán in the summer addressed at Tusnádfürdő in Transylvania, Romania, at Summer University, which I am being one of the organizers of this summer university for some 3 decades now. And he underlined in his speech that now a grand strategy has to be created for Hungary under these very fundamental changes in the world economy and on the stage of the global security landscape and the changes of the world order we have discussed. This grand strategy requires long-term thinking and cross branch, cross-ministerial grand strategy for our country, where I'm convinced we could have a very important and interesting dialogue. By the way, to this summer university, I would be very glad to invite not just you, but your colleagues to discuss these type of questions, how Southeast Asia and Central Europe could come closer to each other. And also, the yesterday opening parliamentary speech of the Prime Minister was underlying a category which is called economic neutrality. And I think this is an important category. When we talk about economy, we need to consider what is competitive and what is economically viable. And there we need to move forward. Also, an important category what he was trying to explain was connectivity. We are not interested in walls and isolation, but we are interested in creating relations and cooperation, especially in the field of economy. Economic neutrality was the term, I repeat, what he was explaining yesterday. So these are, I think, those principles we can base our cooperation between Hungary and Southeast Asia and South Asia. And we are really open, welcoming, and there are some very good starting points we can continue. Concerning education, you also mentioned, I would draw your attention that Hungary has a program, and this is called Stipendium Hungaricum. We are offering to our partners free of charge training at Hungarian universities. Basic training and doctoral and postdoctoral training. And India has got an open possibility to fill up. I cannot tell you exactly how many at the moment, but we have got a broad over 100 possibility to exploit, and we would be very eager to continue this program with academic partners in India. We are open to that, and we are willing to extend it and to continue it. Thank you very
much. Thank you very much, first and foremost, for your generosity in looking at collaboration from a seminar point of view. I think how Hungary, Middle Europe, and Asia can come together as a think tank, that is something that we would love to do, because that, until there is economic trade, tie, and cooperation, nothing can get done. No country, whether big or small, can achieve this by itself. And second, on behalf of the university, that is absolutely something we would like to explore. So we can perhaps look into it. And thank you that it is being done at such a wide level. As I said in the start, 50 minutes. So I'm coming now to the end of the conversation. 2 short questions, and then we'll end it, because you're a busy man and have a busy day ahead. My first question is with respect to the other war that is going on currently in Asia, West Asia to be precise, after the horrendous and horrible attacks on Israel by Hamas on 7th of October 2023, there has been ceaseless war in Palestine. There have been attacks from different sources to Israel. And slowly and steadily, this area is getting disturbed at a larger level. We now have the war or the shadow of war going all the way to Lebanon. We have the Houthi rebels in Yemen, Iran's proxies in other places, most importantly, Syria also looking to get involved. Hungarian and the Chinese cooperation has been very important in the Russian Ukrainian war. But on this, I think there are more close parallels to Hungary and India than Hungary and China. I would like your comment on how do we make the UN system work again in a fair manner so that wars of this nature for so long should not continue in an era when we have ample documentary evidence about the ills of war and the lives lost. And yet, we have seen the UN system for the last 2 years and for the last year not really being able to do much. So I would like your comment, not as a politician and not as a political figure, but as a thinker.
I find it extremely tragic what is happening now, just in these moments in the Middle East. And we are coming close to the first anniversary of the October 7th terrorist attack of Hamas on Israel. I think the heart of this problem is that dark forces don't want to recognize the right to existence of a state called Israel. Obviously, we recognize the principle of a two-state solution, what relates Palestine as well. But I think the very deep problem, which is related to terrorism, related to indirectly, obviously, to trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and the very serious ills of our world is closely related to the attitude not recognizing the right to exist of a state called Israel. So for that reason, I think when we start out from this present situation, we need to underline the right of Israel to self-defense. This is our fundamental starting point. And we also must very quickly underline the importance of respecting international humanitarian law, the protection of civilians, and also the respect on the long-term solution of finding a way towards arriving to a two-state solution. But at the same time, I would like to underline that today, on the very close anniversary of this brutal attack of Hamas on Israel, we need to condemn all form of terrorism in a very united and unequivocal manner. And I do agree with you that our approach to this conflict concerning the Middle East is close to yours again, and Indian role in maintaining a global security is fundamental, and we would like to encourage you and your country to continue this important mission.
Thank you. It's been an illuminating 50-minute conversation. Now we are coming to the end. Here is my last question before we break. Uh, what is your vision of the European Union, and where do you see the European Union and Hungary's relationship vis-a-vis EU and the rest of the world over the next 3 decades, 4 decades, when a lot of structural transformations would have happened in the demographic profile of the EU. A lot of other changes would have taken place. So, what is your vision for Europe and Hungary?
Concerning the European Union, we have got an internal and an external element of our vision. Concerning the external one, I believe that the European Union is a very important economic great power of the world, an economic engine, a technological engine, and it will remain so. And it's good that it is able to maintain its capability in this regard. But we are, in security terms, dwarf. We don't play the role what we should and we could. And that is, I think, a crucial question. How externally the European Union is going to be able to play this role. When we talk about strategic autonomy, it is a term finding our role in relation, obviously, to the United States and to NATO. Finding our role, how Europe can be much more influential in serving a global security purposes. Concerning the internal element, I would underline that there is a major debate between the so-called federalists and the sovereignists inside Europe. And Hungary is among the sovereignists. It means that we believe that the United States and the European Union is fundamentally different. There is not going to be the European, from the European Union, a United States of Europe. Because the nations in Europe, the sovereign nations of Europe, will be always the most important focus of the European cooperation. We need to cooperate to respect and to serve the member states. The 26 plus 1, 27 member states of the European Union. And now we need to a common denominator on this subject internally. This is a fundamental debate inside the EU. And hopefully, when we are able to find a solution for this, parallelly, we will be able to find an answer for the external challenge of the European Union's future. And then, hopefully, the EU will be able to play that role, what is expected. And then I would like to name the motto of the Hungarian presidency of the EU. Hungary will be the European Union. We will also make it great again. This is an import from the United States, but we believe that Europe should follow the same pattern to make Europe great again. That is our job, and that is our vision. Thank you very much.
So I'm saying that this is a conversation that will resonate with a lot of people once we put it online. So thank you very much for doing it. Two things that are my key takeaways, almost something that we are going to develop is how do we have as a think tank, what is the relationship that can be developed between Central Europe, Hungary, and Asia. So that's something we'll be working on. And the second thing is educational and technological integration between what can be called the tech powerhouse of the world and what can be called the cultural and educational powerhouse of the Central Europe. But on that note, thank you so much for doing it. It has been an illuminating conversation, and I hope you had fun.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it very much, and I would like to ask you to send me the link when you have published this interview, and I will make it also available on my Facebook as well. And keep in touch, and I look forward to continue the dialogue with you. Hope you will be able to accept once our invitation to come to our region. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Please take care.